in three.
Going for the St. Louis now.
Oh no!
Son of a bitch.
You get your two?
Yeah. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course. And today we are going to take a look at a replay in the Roon. Now, I hope you guys aren't getting too bored with the replays in the Roon. I've been playing my Roon a whole lot, obviously, because I really want the Hindenburg. I just can't wait to get that thing. I think it's going to be quite an impressive ship. At this point in time, I think I'm about 60,000 experience away from the Hindenburg, so that's not too bad at all. The big hold back in the whole system here for me will be the credits. I think I'm only at maybe about 5 million credits at this point in time, because I have been buying some upgrades for some other ships. I upgraded the torpedoes on the Shimakaze to get the 12-kilometer torpedoes. I got the final hull on the New Orleans, which is great. I've been upgrading my Kiev. Oh, God damn it, Thotgor. Kirov is already fully upgraded. I'm only maybe 10,000, 15,000 experience away from the Tier 6 Russian cruiser, which I can't wait to get, by the way. Very excited to try that thing out, because actually, as I've been playing the Kirov more and more, I'm actually really starting to like this ship. It's surprising. It's kind of growing on me. But anyway, in the Roon on Islands of Ice. So, yeah, we're in a Tier 9, Tier 10 game here, obviously. We do have some other Tier 10s on the team, or on my team and on the enemy team, so I'm going to need to be aware of those guys, especially the battleships, right? Because they can do a whole lot of damage to me. Now, on the enemy team, there is a Zhao, at least one Zhao, and I'm really afraid of that Zhao. Because it's not that the Zhao will be able to outrange me or anything like that. It's just if the player is using high explosive, he can do he or she can do a whole bunch of damage to me, and then in between salvos of that the Zhao is firing at me, the fire damage is going to burn me down, probably use up my repair and all that lovely stuff. So really afraid of the Zhao, to be totally honest with you. I guess with the Zhao, it's more of like a slow, painful death, whereas, if you got hit by a battleship and you're lucky, it might be just quick and painless. Just blam, few citadels, and you're gone. Whereas the Zhao, it's going to be a little painful. Anyway, we do see Des Moines off in the distance now. I was very surprised at the tactics of this player here. So, I've mentioned it before, I think in my ranked battle videos, whereas when you're the cruiser, you really don't want to be spotted first. You really don't want to fire your guns first, because you'll be spotted by the enemy ships, and then all the enemy ships in the background that you don't see, well, they're going to see you and start firing at you, specifically battleships. And that's exactly what is happening to this Des Moines right now. I mean, you can see that there are obviously destroyers popping up, right? We do also see some other ships in the background, but none of my team is concerned about any of that. We are all going to get this Des Moines gone as quick as possible. The closest ship to us, Des Moines is a huge threat. I really think that the Des Moines is not as bad as everyone makes her out to be. I'm starting to think that a lot more about the American cruisers, actually. We are going to take a look at some American cruisers and talk about that, I know, coming up here shortly anyway. So the Des Moines is gone. Fantastic. We don't have to worry about that guy anymore, which is great, because the Des Moines can, like we just said, can really dish out the damage. I get fairly lucky there with that incoming salvo. It didn't do a whole lot of damage, so I was fairly happy with it. I'm pretty sure that those were battleship rounds coming at me, so get a little lucky there, which is not too shabby at all. And we start to position ourselves to figure out where the enemy is going to be pushing from, is what I'm trying to figure out here at this point in time. I'm not willing to go too far up to the north into those islands, because you'll notice I only have a destroyer up there with me, who would be up there with me. And I don't think that that player and myself are going to be able to provide a significant defense to prevent the enemies from continuing forward. So, no, I'm not going to go up there with the destroyer. Instead, I am going to stay with the team, right? I'm going to stay with the pack of ships that I'm with here now, even though I really don't like where we are positioned, because we're basically just all grouped up in the base right now, and it just feels dumb, because we're not pushing anywhere. We're basically just firing at any ships that pop up. And this is something in these higher tier battles that I I don't necessarily enjoy, and I find that this happens because you can see I've got a Yamato here in front of me, right? We've got some other larger high tier battleships with us. The team, I find, tends to stay behind the battleships. Wherever the battleships are going to go, that's where the majority of the team usually goes, especially in these higher battles, higher tier battles. Everyone stays behind the battleships, right? And then it's up to the battleship driver to, recognize whether or not he or she is in a good position. 9 times out of 10, not really a good position. But that's what's happening right now. That's why we're still grouped up in the base, because you can see that some of our battleships, our larger battleships, are still slowly making their way out. And these larger battleships, obviously, right, you see it all the time with American battleships and the Yamato. People will just point their bow at you and then drive in reverse, and that takes up time, obviously. So our Yamato is slowly making its way to the north. I do see an enemy destroyer off in the distance, so we're going to try and take some pot shots off at this player. Just like I wasn't willing to go into the islands in the north, I'm not willing to go into the smaller islands to the south. That's basically a death trap for me as a cruiser, right? I don't have any support. I wouldn't have any support in there anyway, so I'm just not willing to go into there and duke it out with any potential enemy destroyers that might be there. Instead, we're just going to keep firing at this enemy destroyer off in the distance. We can see that we did land a few hits. Some of my allies are putting shots into him as well, and landing some nice shots as well, so that's pretty great. We might be able to get that enemy destroyer gone. That salvo there did do a bit of damage, so we'll just maybe fire off another salvo here, just kind of guessing where the enemy destroyer might be. And then we can see the smoke that the enemy destroyer laid. So obviously we know the enemy destroyer is over in that direction somewhere. Taking a look around at the other enemy ships that we see, and just looking at the hit points that are on them, right? Whether or not they're in my range, but still keeping in mind that enemy destroyer. I don't want to get torpedoed, not this early in the battle. Even if it doesn't kill me, it's going to cost me a whole lot in hit points. We talked about it the other day, hit point conservation. This early in the battle, I really don't want to take that amount of damage. I just don't think that I'd be able to then survive until the end of the battle. And we're watching this replay, epic comebacks. Obviously, this is going to be a fairly tense game. So the enemy destroyer is gone. That is fantastic, but we still do have 3 enemy destroyers remaining. Now this enemy destroyer did launch off 2 spreads of torpedoes at me, right? It was a Kagero, so launched off both spreads. Luckily I'm able to splice those torpedoes, which is great. I don't take any damage at all, and we're going to continue to put shots into the Amagi off in the distance, because this Amagi is on fairly low health, and each salvo that I put into the Amagi does about 6k damage, so that's not too bad at all. Will really, goes pretty well when I hit the Amagi, but it goes a long way to actually bringing that Amagi down. We do see the enemy aircraft carrier off in the distance, and it's at this point in time that need to make a decision, right? Am I going to push for the enemy aircraft carrier, or am I going to continue focusing on those battleships? Given how close I am to the enemy base, I'm actually going to continue to focus on the enemy aircraft carrier. We're going to try and get this guy gone. There's only one aircraft carrier on the other side, so if we can get this enemy aircraft carrier gone, this is a Japanese tier 10 carrier, or tier 9 carrier, sorry. So if we can get him gone, that's going to really go a long way to help out my team. So that is what I'm going to attempt to do here while capping the enemy base. Now you can see as well on the minimap that I'm not alone in my endeavors, right? I do have another friendly cruiser with me, and we have a friendly destroyer with me as well. So this is good. We're getting ourselves into the enemy base. Things seem to be progressing fairly well, right? Just continuing to put shots into this enemy aircraft carrier. Now I am firing armor piercing. In case you weren't aware, I think it's by tier 7 the aircraft carriers become a lot more armored, and it's actually more advantageous to shoot armor piercing at them, because you're going to get, or rather you have the potential to get, some nice citadels on that enemy aircraft carrier and do a whole bunch of damage and potentially just take the aircraft carrier completely out of the picture for the battle, right? So that's why I'm firing my armor piercing at this Tahoe here. Now looking at the minimap, you can see a lot of my team is over here with me. We have, I think, 2 ships who are defending our base, And then we have some other ships, well, the aircraft carrier who's down hiding in the small island, so that's great, no big deal. Number of torpedoes on the way in, and you can see, you know, why I did not want to take that torpedo earlier on, right? Taking those 2 torpedoes right there would have really screwed me over. So the enemy aircraft carrier is now gone, so that's great. We're going to start firing off at the Yamato, because the Yamato's not focused on me, so if I can do some quick damage to this guy here, that's going to go a long way to help out my team as well. Biggest thing though that we need to concern ourselves right now with is the fact that we don't have anyone really defending our base, right? And you can see that the enemies are making a beeline for our base. It looks as though rather than try to come back and defend their base, the enemies just went straight for our base. And the destroyers that the enemy has, specifically a Shimakaze, right? Because look at all these torpedoes coming in, are going to continue to harass us over here at the enemy base this entire cap. So it's going to be pretty tense here. In fact, I had to maneuver. I didn't know the torpedoes were going to run out of fuel, so I had to maneuver, and I'm now out of the enemy base, no longer capping the enemy base. So that kind of sucks too, especially considering the enemies are capping our base. Now, because it is a Yamato that is in our base, or in and around our base, this ship is easily able to return fire at us, the ships who are attempting to cap the enemy base, right? So that also sucks. Now, it's at this point in time that I need to make a decision. Looking at the 2 enemy bases, obviously the enemy team is further ahead in the cap than my team is. So do I stay in the enemy base and continue to cap it, or do I turn back and go for our base? I do decide to turn back and go for our base, to defend our base, and then you can see the Zhao pops up. So obviously I was really concerned about this Zhao, fairly afraid of the Zhao, so I am just going to take down this Zhao before I do anything at all. Hopefully I'm going to be able to take him down quick enough so that I'll still have enough time to get back into our base and prevent the capture of our base, right? Because the enemies have almost half of our base captured to less than the quarter that we have of the enemy base captured. Which, you know, it has a big thing to do with the Zhao that's in front of us right now, but also the enemy ships that are capping our base right now being able to fire in at us as we are capping their base. So there we go, another salvo into the Zhao, and we're going to launch off my torpedoes, because it looks like the Zhao is fairly preoccupied with the destroyers. He hasn't been returning fire on me at all, which I find very surprising, so hopefully the Zhao will just continue in a straight line, end up hitting my torpedoes. That would be fantastic. It would be the ideal situation here, obviously. While all this is going on, I'm just going to continue to put shots into this Zhao. I'm fairly surprised I'm not getting any citadels on him, but I'm still doing a whole crap ton of damage with these salvo. There's a citadel, and there we go. We hit the enemy Zhao with one of our torpedoes, and the enemy Zhao is gone now. So with the departure of the enemy Zhao, it now makes it a whole lot easier for me to get into my base and start helping with the defense of my base, right? I do still have some destroyers in the enemy base who are clearly going to try and stick around and help out, maybe continue to cap, but my priority now is to go into my base and prevent the capture of it. Again, I took a torpedo. Now that was a torpedo from the enemy Zhao that we killed. He launched those torpedoes, and again, coming back to hit point conservation, right? If I would have taken those torpedoes early on in the game, definitely I'd be dead at this point in time. Now we have a Hindenburg behind us, and I was fairly concerned about this Hindenburg. I am putting shots into him because, you know, he and I are both, or well, the player and I are both within range of each other, so we're firing back and forth. But I'm steaming in a straight line. I'm just giving the Hindenburg my stern to be able to fire at, trying to limit the broadsides, right, and limit the damage that I'm going to be taking here. So we do have an enemy Montana that we can see here that we are going to have to deal with. The Montana is on half health, so that's not too bad, but I am actively losing hit points because of the Hindenburg behind me continues to fire. So all I can hope to do, again, is, you know, steam in a straight line away from him, presenting as small a target as possible, potentially doing some maneuvers here, but I'm fairly focused on the Montana because I really want to get this ship gone, right? There we go, enemy Montana is gone, but we do still have enemy destroyers who are in our base capping. So right at this point in time, the enemies have 5 ships remaining to our 6 ships remaining. So things are looking pretty good for us. But it is fairly close. I mean, look how close the enemies are to actually capping the base. There we go. I did get a hit on the Tashkent there, and that prevented the actual the enemies from finishing the cap in our base. So fantastic. My allies are all shooting in on the Tashkent. There he goes. He's gone. The enemies continue to cap our base though. So obviously there are more enemy ships in the cap, and considering the fact that I see both the cruisers on the map right now, well, the cruiser and the battleship I should say, I know that both destroyers are in our cap, right? So we need to get ourselves in here and we need to cap this out as quick as possible. We have more torpedoes coming in, so that is from the Shimakaze. So right at that point in time I can think to myself, well, you know, there's at least one enemy destroyer in the enemy base. There he is there. And the second destroyer, the last enemy destroyer remaining, is probably steaming towards our base, probably on a parallel path to me, maybe trying to line up some more torpedoes. So I need to keep this in mind as well. I do have my acoustic sonar ability popped, so hopefully that's going to give me some early warning to any incoming torpedoes while I focus on this enemy destroyer. We need to take out this enemy destroyer. If we don't, you know, we could potentially lose. Even though we have reset the capture points of this destroyer, which is buying us more time, thank God, doesn't mean we don't have a chance of losing this, right? It could still happen. So the enemies are actually still continuing, or rather this enemy destroyer here is still trying to continue to cap this base here, and it is just going pretty terrible for that enemy destroyer, frankly. You can see that we have cruisers in there, right? My friendly Des Moines is up there pumping shells into the enemy destroyer. I'm in the background putting shells into the enemy destroyer as well. There is the last enemy destroyer, the Shimakaze, who was causing us problems, so I am going to try and engage this guy here. This guy was a pain in my side, so I'm going to try and do something about him. The other enemy destroyer is now dead, so we don't have to worry about that guy. No longer is the enemy capping our base, so that is fantastic. Now it's just a matter of getting these enemies killed before the time runs out so that we can take the victory here. So the Shimakaze is on half health, a little under half health. We still have the Hindenburg and the Amagi. But if we do look at the hit points remaining on the enemy ships, yeah, they don't have too many, right? None of them are at least full hit points. I do still need to be careful, though, playing this one to the end, because I'm on fairly low hit points. And one nice salvo from either the Amagi or the Hindenburg, and I will be gone. It will just happen. So there we go. I got myself a nice Confederate medal out of this, so that is not too shabby at all. Obviously, I mean, I was shooting at a number of different targets here in this battle, and you can tell as well by just the amount of damage that has been registered so far, or at least the damage I've seen that has been registered, so about 147,000 damage done thus far. So that's not too shabby at all. And again, another reason why I just love this rune. It just has, you know, such an ability to dish out so much damage so quickly that it's phenomenal. Anyway, the enemy Shimakaze, you know, things aren't looking too good for this player. I am trying to put some shots into him, but all of my shots are missing. No surprise there, I guess. Enemy Shimakaze is on really, really low health. If we can just get some final shots into him, that player will be gone, and then we will only have to deal with the enemy Hindenburg and Amagi, which should be fairly easy to actually deal with. So last few shots go into the Shimakaze there. I managed to get a bit more damage, and my ally shots come in and take out the Shimakaze, so fantastic. Fantastic. We have done this. It was really, really close there with the enemies attempting to cap our base, but luckily, it didn't happen. Luckily, we were able to use the flexibility of the cruiser, of my Roon here, get myself into position, and support my allies in defending the base, right? Basically, I didn't go from one side of the map to the other, but I did go from from the enemy base to my base in a fairly quick amount, or short amount of time. And in addition to that, I was able to mitigate incoming damage from the Hindenburg as well, right? And the Hindenburg, if the Roon is capable of this amount of damage, the Hindenburg is going to be just capable of so much more. I can't wait. Anyway, Hindenburg is down. One of my destroyers managed to get the Hindenburg, so congratulations to that player, and good job there as well. We just need to take out the Amagi, and then we have this victory. Yes, the Amagi is on fairly low health. You can see all of my team putting shots into him. I'm not within range of the Amagi, but I am steaming in a straight line towards the Amagi, trying to close that distance as quick as possible, so that at the very least maybe I'll be able to put a few shots into him before the actual game ends. That would be ideal. You can see as well that the Amagi is attempting you know, some evasive maneuvers there, which is nice to see, right? The player isn't just lying down and taking it, I guess. The only questionable thing about this, I suppose, would be that he turned into it, or the player turned into us to fire a full salvo. But I think that that is fully acceptable, considering that this enemy ship is the last enemy ship on the team. The player knows that he's going to go down. Why not go down fighting, right? So I can fully understand that, and frankly respect it as well, because I do the same thing. I'm not just going to run away from all of the enemy team. If I'm the last ship, I'm going to fight it out. If called for, though, because there are definitely instances where, if you die, you're going to lose. Anyway, battle is over. Victory is ours, and what a game that was. So about 8,300 experience out of that, so that's not too bad at all. I got 2 kills, we got 4 citadels, we've got the old Confederate medal there. This was during the weekend, obviously, that just passed, so they had all those events going on, so we can see those being earned. Top of the team overall with about 2,700 base experience, so that's not too bad at all. Well over 100,000 in damage in this battle. Again, not too bad at all. Most importantly, though, we walk away with a number of credits and experience, all going towards the old Hindenburg, obviously. I cannot wait. Cannot wait to get into that Hindenburg. I think it's going to be fantastic. Anyway, that is the end of today's video. I do hope you enjoyed it. As always, leave any comments you have for me in the video comments section below. Love reading those and responding back to them. Hit the old like button if you did like today's video. Hit subscribe if you are not a subscriber. And as always, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.